See, as we discussed in the yesterday session, actually today we are going to see about that SQL concept. The SQL actually we are going to learn it using the SQL Server. We know that SQL is a language. SQL is a language. It's a database language. So this language we can use it in any one of the database like SQL Server, Oracle, or MySQL. So like this, we are having different types of databases are available in the current market. We are going to learn this SQL using the SQL Server database. SQL Server is the product of Microsoft. So using the SQL Server, actually, we are going to learn this SQL. So first, we have to install the SQL Server. SQL Server is a database server, actually. It's a database server. The database, you can install it by downloading from the Microsoft website. From the Microsoft website. So go to the Google. Here. So again, enter like this on the download SQL Server or SQL Server download. Here, the first page actually it will be that Microsoft page. You can open it. So on this page, so just scroll down. You can see this developer actually. See the SQL Server, we are having different editions, developer, express, standard. Like this, we are having different editions. So the developer, it's a free version. You can use it for your learning purpose. So these two actually, they will use it for the production usage. So we can go with the developer version. The developer version actually available here. You can see this from the SQL Server 2009 developer is a full feature free edition. License for use as a development and test database in a non-production environment. The non-production environment, and actually during the development time, you can use this developer version. So, but if you are going to deploy your database into that your production environment, now the live in the live actually, so there will be a three types of server environment. One is the development server. Second one is that testing environment or quality, and third one is the production environment. The production environment is the live environment actually. From that environment only, so actually the live data, whatever you are seeing, any one of the, just to take example, any one of that web application or any one of the business application, the data, whatever you are seeing or whatever you are interacting, so those data actually you are getting from the production environment actually. Production, for example, Amazon, if you're taking now, so the data, whatever we are getting in the Amazon applications now, those data are we are getting from the production environment. All the data are available in the production environment. The same Amazon, if they're going to do any of that updates, if they're going to do any of the changes now, that changes are that updates actually, they will do it in that development server environment. That's a development server environment. It will not be accessible for the end user like you, like me. So the development environment for the developers. Here actually we are going to use it for the learning purpose only, so that what we can use now, so we can download this developer version. This is enough for us. So I can download it. If you download now, actually the exe will be downloaded. The exe will be downloaded. After downloading this exe, if you select the double click, it will be actually installed. Suppose if you're having any doubts on this one, now you can get the help from the Google, YouTube videos are there. You can get it the help. So the common videos are there for the installing SQL Server. You can take the reference. So even after referring the video, you are not able to understand, just let me know. I'll help you how to install this one. But this is a way actually you can download that your SQL Server software and then you can install it. See, as I told you earlier, SQL Server is a database server. The database server. SQL Server is a database server. So this is a database server. In this database, you can create objects. You can create objects. So the type of objects, what are the type of objects you're using in the SQL Server, database server? Database, tables, views, store procedure, triggers. Like this, we are having a lot of objects in the SQL Server. We are not going to learn it everything because we are not going to learn that for the SQL Server developer. But important things, the SQL related objects like database creation, tables, views. So these things actually we will learn it actually. If you are having that enough time now, so let's see some basics about the store procedure and triggering concept. Because these two things and functions features, so these are all things will come under that advanced level SQL. It is called TSQL here, transaction SQL. The transaction SQL is we are having now, so it's a value adder only. But for ourselves, actually, we have to cover a lot of things, the rest of the technologies, so the ADF, Databricks, Power BI. So we will try to see some basics if you're having time for the store procedure and triggers. But these things actually you'll learn it. So these are the objects, totally these are the objects are available under the database server actually. But these objects, if you want to create, where we have to create it now, we have to create it in the database server only. But the database server actually, so we can create this all of the objects and then we can store the data. Everything we can do it in the database server actually. This database server, when it will be available, once you install that our SQL Server software, now this database server available in our system. In the single laptop, actually, in the single desktop, if you are installing now, so it will be available in our system. But this database server actually, so where it will be installed now, for example, in my laptop, if I'm installing now, it will be installed in my hard disk. So whatever software you're installing, everything will be installed in your hard disk only. The same way, this database also will be installed in a hard disk. But if you want to access this database, now directly, you cannot access this database. Directly, you cannot access. How we can access it actually? For accessing the SQL Server database, we need one user interface tool. We need one user interface tool. User interface. User interface. Simply, we will say UI tool. UI tool. So if you want to access that your database server now, so you have to use that one interface tool, user interface tool. That user interface tool name is called SSMS. Short form is the SSMS. The SSMS stands for SQL Server Management Studio. Actually, after installing this your SQL Server, you have to get it. Actually, once you download this developer version and you install now, after completion of the installation, one pop-up will be appeared. In the pop-up, there will be an option for install SSMS. So you have to click that install SSMS option. Otherwise, what you can do it now? Same way, go to the Google and SSMS 2019. The download SQL Server Management Studio 2019. If you open it, it will be navigated. So download SSMS. Download SSMS. The free download for SSMS. You can download it. The same way you can install it. The exe will be downloaded. So just double click that exe. The SSMS installation is not a biggest deal. Just you can select the next option only. So it will be installed. So once that SSMS installed, it will be actually see here. SSMS installed now in the start window. So the recently added page, then the recently added section, you can see that your recently installed software. The folder will be there. So since I have installed so long back now, my system, so it will be available under the folder section. So scroll down, you can see that your SQL Server softwares. Actually, I have installed so with some different versions. For our learning, actually, I'm going to use the SQL Server 2014. But for you, actually, you can install. As my system is some problem, the slowness problem, so that I'm going to use the 2014 version. And the 2014, actually, you can see this one. So that SQL Server Management Studio, the SQL Server 2014 Management Studio. Suppose if you're going to use that 2019 version, now actually it will be so like this one. So for the 19 SQL Server SSMS 18 version, you have to download it. See here, the SSMS 18 version. This version you have to download it. So it will be like this one, the SQL Server Management Studio 18. So you have to open this SQL Server Management Studio. I'm going to open this SQL Server 2014 Management Studio. See here, Once you open that your SQL Server Management Studio now, so this window will be opened with the login pop-up window. This login pop-up window, by default, the server type, the database engine will be selected. So it will have some different services also, like the analysis service, reporting services, integration services also available. But these services actually, we don't want to use it. This service actually it is using for MSBI, Microsoft Business Intelligence, like a Power BI purpose, the data analysis and report generation purpose. These three services are used. So we are not going to use that MSBI related things. We are going to use that our SQL Server database only. The SQL Server database, now the database server type, the database engine should be selected. So by default, it will be selected like this only. And then server name. The server name is nothing but actually here. See here. I told you when you are installing that your SQL Server, it will be installed in your system. But if you want to access the database now, we need that SSMS, right? The SSMS actually we are having in my laptop. We have installed that SSMS. We have installed that SSMS. The SSMS available here. It's available, right? It's installed. So in the system, it's the SSMS also installed. Using this SSMS, we can interact or we can connect. We can connect with our database. We can connect with our database. Using the SSMS only, we can connect with our database. So if you want to connect with your database using the SSMS, some of the inputs you have to provide. One is called server name. Server name. Then you have to select that authentication. The authentication actually we are having the authentication. Actually, we are having two types of authentication in the SQL Server. One is Windows authentication. Another one is SQL Server authentication. In our personal system, learning purpose, we can use or we can choose that Windows authentication. If you are choosing that Windows authentication means you don't want to give that any of the credentials like username and password. If you are going to use that SQL Server authentication now, you have to provide username and password. This username password actually will be created when you are installing your SQL Server. Actually, these all will be handled by your SQL Server admin person. Admin person will be there. And the real-time environment actually in the company side, actually, you don't want to install anything like this one. So it will be, everything will be handled by that admin. Admin will be there. Your role will be the developer. So you are not going to do anything, the user creations. So the server name authentication information is we have to provide when you're connecting with our database using that server, SQL Server Management Studio. Here it is asking the server name and authentication, what type of authentication you're going to use it. In my system, actually, I have installed the SQL Server. So the my system is the the development system as well as a server system, right? Because database installed in this system. And the SQL Server Management Studio also installed in this system. So this is a system server for me. This is a system development system for me. But in the live environment, the real-time scenario, the real-time environment, the real-time environment actually the real-time environment actually multiple systems will be there because every users will use a separate system. So that every system will interact with your database server. So like this, it will have so for this database server, there will be a server name. Using that server name, we have to connect with our database from our system. Here, my system actually is a server system. In the start menu, if you are searching the system information now, you can see the system name. The system name is Paul. So that the same name using as a server name. Using as a server name. And authentication, we can select that Windows authentication or a SQL Server authentication. If you are selecting a Windows authentication now, so we don't want to provide any of the credentials. So automatically it will take that our Windows credentials, the credential, whatever we are using for this system, the username and password. So that credentials, it will take it automatically. Suppose if you are, but in the real-time environment, you have to select the SQL Server authentication. For you, they will provide their separate credentials. For you, they will provide the separate credentials. Your username and password will be the separate one for you. So in the real-time environment, you have to connect with your SQL Server databases using that your own credentials. So that time you have to select that SQL Server authentication only. You have to select it. So here actually I'm going to use that our Windows authentication only. So I'm going to click this connect. So now we have connected with our SQL Server database. See, once you have logged in into that your SQL Server database now in the SQL Server Management Studio window, in the left side, you can see that one panel. This is called that Object Explorer. This is called Object Explorer. The Object Explorer will have that all the objects, whatever the objects are available in this SQL Server, everything will be there here. Right? So the database objects, all objects are available in this left side window, the Object Explorer. So in the left side, actually in the Object Explorer window, suppose if I'm closing this window now, you can go to the menu, view. See here, the Object Explorer option available here. So if you click this one, the Object Explorer window will be opened here. See, you can see that one folder, the name of databases. Just I'm expanding. Here you can see this subfolder, the name of system database. The system database, actually, we are having the 4 databases: master, model, MSDB, tempdb. These 4 databases actually automatically will be available once you install that SQL Server into that your system now. So by default, these 4 databases are available. So without using these 4 databases, we could not work out in the SQL Server. So if the SQL Server database want to function properly now, so these 4 databases should be there. So that is the reason by default, when you are installing that SQL Server, these 4 database automatically will be available in your databases. These databases you could not able to, you could not delete it actually. You could not delete it. The system databases we could not delete. Sometimes in interviews they will ask the question, what are the system databases are available in the SQL Server? Just tell these names: master, model, MSDB, tempdb. So immediately they will ask the question, can we delete that to a system database now? So say no. We cannot delete these system databases. So this using of these databases only, the SQL Server will function. So if your database should perform properly, should work properly now, so these databases should be there. It will be there. So databases actually once you install now, so you can connect with your database using this SQL Server Management Studio, like this, what we have done it so far. In the this icon actually connect Object Explorer and disconnect Object Explorer. So this one actually, suppose if you want to disconnect from your server now, you can click this one. So it will be disconnected. From this window itself, if you want to connect again now, you can click this one. Again, the login pop-up will be open. So the record information you can provide it here. Then you can click the connect. Then it will be connected. So this is the way actually what we can do it now. We can connect with our database. This is the way of connecting with your database. So we have seen how to connect with our database, right? So now we are going to see about that one. how to create the user-defined databases. We have seen some of the databases in the name of system databases, right? The system database by default, it will be available. So when you're installing that your SQL Server, automatically it will be available. Using those system databases only, your database server going to be function. So without using those system databases, the server system is actually the SQL Server system will not perform properly. But for the business purpose, our requirement, if you want to store the data now, we have to store the data. The data where we can store it in the data, we can store it in the tables. The tables where we can create it. So in the hierarchy, how it will come now? The hierarchy. First, we have to create that our database. User-defined database, we have to create it in this database only. We have to create the table. For example, if you are going to work with the different projects now, for each project, we have to create that separate database. We have to create a separate database. Under the database, we have to create the table. So in the SQL Server, if you want to use the data now, the data where we can keep it, the data we can store it in the tables, but the tables where we have to create it, the tables we have to create it under the user-defined database. So now we have to see how to create that our user-defined database. How to create the user-defined database. Let's see that one.